everyone, welcome back. In the last episode, we talked about what clean architecture is and how it's made up of three layers: data, domain, and presentation. In this episode, we're going to set up our project folder structure based on clean architecture. Now, developers who don't use clean architecture usually organize their code in different ways. For example, they might create one folder for all their state management, another for their screens, and maybe a models folder somewhere else. It works for small apps, but as the project grows, it quickly becomes messy and hard to manage. With clean architecture, we follow a structured and consistent folder organization. This makes our project easier to understand, easier to maintain, and much more scalable. I've already created a fresh Flutter project, and after each episode, I'll push the change to GitHub so you can follow along. The GitHub link is in the description. Alright, let's build our folder structure step by step. The first folder we create inside lib is called config. This folder holds everything related to the app's configuration. For example, app terms like light term or dark term. Localization files means translations for multiple languages. App routes if you're using a router setup. Basically, anything that configures the global behavior of your app goes here. Next, we create a folder called features. This is where almost all our app's logic will live. The idea is to split our app into separate features. For example, since we're building a simple news app, I'll create two features. The first one is news feature for fetching and displaying articles, and the second one is the bookmark feature for saving and managing bookmarked articles. This might feel a bit overkill at first, but trust me, when your app grows, you'll thank yourself. Each feature becomes independent, easier to maintain, and much easier to find later. Quick tip: always use lowercase names for your folders and files. It keeps things consistent. Now let's create a folder in lib folder called core. This is where we place all the short classes and utilities that multiple features might need. Inside core, we'll add a few subfolders. The first one is prompts. In clean architecture, methods should ideally accept a maximum of 3 parameters. But sometimes you need to send many parameters, for example, when posting data to an API. Instead of passing 10 parameters, we create a single class inside prompts. For example, news prompts for news API, and send it as one object. And the second folder is utils. This folder holds utility classes and constants that are used across the app. For example, constants.dart might hold API keys, base URLs, or app-wide text styles. Another good example is a date converter that formats dates consistently across features. And the third folder that I want to add to core folder is the widgets. We can put short widgets that are reused in multiple features inside this folder. For example, a custom loading indicator or a comment button. As the project grows, we'll add more shared folders to core. But for now, these 3 are enough. Now let's go back to our features folder. Remember, each feature has its own 3-layer structure. Let's start with the first feature, bookmark, and add the 3 layers to it. The first layer is data layer. The second one is the domain layer. And the last one is the presentation. Let's start with data. We create a directory inside data layer called data source. This folder is responsible for providing data. It can have a local folder for local database or cache, and also a remote folder for APIs and network calls. Some features maybe contains both of these, or maybe just one of them. Let's create another folder in data layer. This folder called repository. Repository folder contains the actual repository implementations that talk to data sources and handle data transformations. And third folder in data layer is the models folder. These are data models that convert raw API or database data into Dart objects. Okay, data layer is enough. Let's go to the domain layer. The first folder that I want to add to domain folder is entities. These are pure models that represent the core business objects of your app. For example, a news entity that represents an article. Both domain and presentation layers depends on these entities. Let's go to next folder. Repository again. Here we place abstract classes that define the contract for repositories. The data layer will later implement these contracts. And the last folder I want to add to domain layer is the use cases. Each use case represents a single piece of business logic. For example, get news articles or bookmark an article. This makes our code more modular and testable. Okay, let's go to the presentation layer. This folder depends on which state management tool you're using. In our case, we'll use BLoC, so we'll put all our BLoC related files here. The next one is screens or pages folder. Contains the UI page or screens of the future. And the last folder in the presentation layer is widgets folder. Holds widgets that are specific to these features screens. Once this is done, we'll repeat the same 3-layer structure for every feature in app. I copy these 3 layers and paste them in the news feature. And that's it for this episode. We just set up a clean and scalable folder structure for our Flutter project using clean architecture. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.